How's it going, David?
Hi, Nachiketa. I'm sure you've seen the video, or if you haven't, I hope you will see it soon, about the British Koran in Egypt. Yes, and
Mhm.
it's a shocking story of the British involvement and the spread of the Quran and Islam in Egypt. Now, I'm going to send you a map, and in this map, what you will see is the French and the Italians. Well, the French territories will focus on them today in Africa, and the nearest countries to France are Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. And then as you go further south, there is French West Africa, and this is the colonial territory where the French were said to have ruled. Yes, in the from the 19th century up until the mid 20th century. So in some places a little after that. So now, when we see this map, we can see, the British are in Egypt and the French are in West Africa, basically all that region. You can see it. So now, what is strange is that if you have a look at the map of modern Islam today, and this is the Muslim schools. Now, the orange region is known as the Maliki school, and the green region, Egypt, is known as the Hanafi school, Hanafi. Yes, and the Maliki school, yes, is mysteriously in the region that was controlled by the French territory. Yes, this seems very strange. So we're going to go through the history of this region known as the Maghreb, or West Africa, and the French Quran. Yes, the French Quran in Morocco and Algeria. It's a very shocking history. For example, let me show you Casablanca. Here is a photograph of Mir Sultan 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago. And as you could see, there's a Frenchman there. Somebody from France took a photograph. This is in downtown Casablanca. What is there?
Nothing. Horse and buggy.
Yes, well, today, if you go to Casablanca today and take a picture of Mir Sultan's downtown Casablanca, yes, what do you see there today? I think this is a photograph from the 1960s or 70s or 80s. What does it look like today, this same place? Quartier Mir Sultan. Quartier means the place. Mir Sultan, the center, downtown Casablanca. What do you see the difference today?
I see buildings and apartments and sprawling infrastructure.
So what can we say? Did Casablanca exist?
It exists.
Realistically, I mean, 100 years ago, or 150 or 200 years ago. What
No.
would you say now? Did it realistically exist? So now Casablanca is a Muslim city in Morocco. Yes, and its population is today, um, they say, is up to about 5 million people. Within the city area, there's about 4 million people, and yeah, Grand Casablanca in the city area, and they say that if you go to the metropolitan area, it's about total, with the suburban areas, about, about 7 million people. And, there's migrants who live in shanty towns on the outside and people coming to work there. So it's up to about 10 million people. But but the reality of Casablanca is it's a Muslim city, and things like this, they're going to say there's a lot of Muslim history there, Muslim museums, and Muslim everything. But what do we know about the reality 100 years ago? Is it there?
No. Nothing was there 100 years ago.
It's not there. So that means the history of this city must have been invented or falsified. So now let's have a look at Meknes. And here is I think this is Meknes. Let's see. Here is the city of Meknes. And what is shocking, we see a similar thing. Yes, the city, we can't really see it. It's like there's new buildings today. Can you new buildings at that time, as if they've been just built? Can you see it? This
Yes.
is like 100 years ago. What do you exactly see in that city?
I see a crowd of people, kind of an open street and some walls.
You think they've been there for centuries? Do those buildings look old to you?
No, they look pretty new to me.
So the thing is, of course, they're going to tell us Mechanist has got, 1,000-year history or something like this. But we can see that basically nothing there. The people have just arrived. And of course, there will be people trying to dispute it. Yeah, well, it's not a question of dispute, it's a question of proof. Prove it. You see? Question of if you're going to declare something, then you should prove it, don't you think so? Yes.
Absolutely.
And so if we look at Meknes today, it's very shocking. Here is, you could see that last picture, and what do you see in Meknes today?
It looks like a sprawling metropolis, with a lot of buildings, lights.
Yes, it's like it's an amazing place, beautiful place, thousands of people. It's probably got a population of around 1 million people. And the Meknes Fez region, yes, has got about 5 million people in the region with Fez. Yes, and the city itself, the downtown area, it's got about 500,000 people. But we can't seem to find these people, 100 years ago. It's almost like they've just arrived. And so the thing is, let's have a look at the next city. Let's have a look at the city of Agadir in the south of Morocco. And I think this is from the 1920s or 30s, around then. There's older pictures, and you will find that it's the same thing. That what do you see in this place here in Agadir? 80, 90 years ago.
I see kind of an ocean front, a few buildings, one large street that's right along the coast, but
Ah,
quite
yes, and
empty.
yeah. And when the French arrived, there was nothing there, and they said there was a city there, 1,000 years ago or something. But today, this is what this place looks like now. What do you notice about the difference?
Bigger streets, a lot more buildings, and yeah, it's a big city, sprawling metropolis.
Yeah, in case some people are going to say, oh no, we can't see the waterfront properly in the previous picture. There's hundreds of pictures, yes, that they could find of these places and other cities in the region. Here is a better look of that place. Can you see the same place 100 years ago? What do you see?
I see a palm tree and a few buildings, just very simple structure right there, one pier, and
What houses?
yeah,
Yes, it's empty.
yeah,
It's
not much.
empty.
Yeah, it's
So now, serious question is, where did these people come from? When did they arrive? Who brought them and why? And today, Agadir Metropolis, yeah, has got about 1 million people. Downtown has got about 500,000 people. So it's a serious question. When did they come? And we are told that Morocco is a historical country, yes, with thousands of years of history, and Islam has got, they've got ancient manuscripts of the Quran, 1,000 years old, things like this. And the mud hut buildings that we saw before, you're looking at them from above here, you can see them directly in front of you. What do you see? What do they look like? How long have these people lived here? In if the buildings look like that. In fact, I'll send it to you a bit enlarged.
I
How
mean,
long have they been
I
there?
just see a very
The 100 years.
simple structure, made out of stone and cobble and mud, and I could not imagine it be more than, I don't know, 10, 20 years max.
Yeah, it's like they've just arrived. So something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So when did Morocco become Muslim? When did these people arrive there? So today we're going to go through these things. So now, the French ruled Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Mali, Mauritania, Chad, and all these places, all of West Africa, basically, apart, and the British, and they both, worked together. Who controlled the education system in Morocco? You could read the first sentence of that.
Until 1962, the French colonial administration dominated education.
Ah, the French controlled the education system? That's a little strange. You mean to tell me the French are controlling the education system in Morocco and the people have just arrived? And now they've got the Muslim Quran there, and they've got Islam there, and they've got a different school of thought compared to the others, and it's called the Maliki school, which just happens to be on French territory. And then the people in power in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, yes, the elites and all these people, where were they educated 100 years ago? Yes, the French took people to educate them. Who were these people who wanted to, set up countries like Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia? Who are the young Algerians 100 years ago?
Young Algerians, a group of French educated men who early in the 20th century became the first Algerians to attempt reform within the colonial.
Within the colonial empire or system, obviously. Yes, so that's Algeria. Yes, so they were French educated, the elite or the people who the French trained. Now let's go next door to Tunisia. Who are the young Tunisians?
Let's see. Tunisian national movement in 1907. The Young Tunisians Party was formed by Bashir Safar, the party which consisted mainly of middle class French educated Tunisians.
Ah, so now we can see the elite and the educated people in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. Yes, and these are examples. People can check out the entire region. Yes, they can read the entire region and they can ask people. That's why I told people to go to the mosques and they can ask people, and they will tell you, hey, those people. They were Arabs, the young Tunisians, young Algerians, mysteriously. That's what we call them today, and they were educated by the French. Yes, and these are the people in power today. Here is just an example of a private message somebody sent me from Algeria. It's because I ask people everywhere. And let's have a look. What does this person say about their village in Algeria? What people were doing 50, 60 years ago in Algeria?
In my village in Nigeria, people weren't praying. They knew how to pray and the Quran and were Muslim. But the mosques were empty at the prayer times. It's the Muslims Brotherhood of Egypt. They came finance mosques in every little village. They came in the villages and educating them, calling them to fear Allah and go pray at the prayers time.
This is one person that I know, but people can ask hundreds of people and they will get a similar story. They will find a similar story. And the Muslim Brotherhood, if people watch the video that I made with Raphael, it's called the British Koran in Egypt, then they will find more information about this, about the Muslim Brotherhood, how they were trained by the British. They were trained by the British, and people can over there, and they were taught Islam. They were taught the Arabic language. Yes, and people can find it. Here it is. Yeah. If you want, upload it on your channel too, then people could see the background to this, and they could see it. This video. This is what they've got to find: the British Quran. Yes, and so these people came from there, from Egypt. Yes, after the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and they came and they're spreading Islam. So why were they doing this? And another thing is, many people don't know, but we'll go through it. Here is an example of the Qurans that were used widely in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia in the 1990s, 1980s, in our century in the first 10 years. Now, many different printing. But here is an example. If anybody could read it, they will find that there's differences. They will find that there's differences between these Qurans and things like this. And for example, it's like we're going to go through this in a minute. It's like there's a suspicious Quran called the Gold Quran, which is in Turkey. But before the 19th chapter, all the chapters are missing. For the Gold Quran, read the first paragraph.
Turkey has acknowledged that Johns Hopkins had no role in removal of the Gold Koran from the library in Istanbul or from Turkey, which occurred at an unknown time between inventories taken in 1756 and 1951. Turkey also acknowledges that Johns Hopkins has no knowledge of how the manuscript came to be in the United States.
Ah, yes, it's just before 19 chapters that's in the United States, which is very suspicious. When we look at these manuscripts, the thing is not the oral Quran. The manuscripts, they've got differences, whoever wrote them. Like, for example, the Warsh, it says Al-Azina this is in the, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia Quran that was widespread printed, 20, 30 years ago. And the Egyptian Quran, widespread printed in the 1970s and 80s, it says Walazina. And here it says Alazina. And
Mhm.
the thing is, what we see is that the Istanbul Gold Quran, which is the first 19 chapters before that, is in America. The Warsh Quran has the same spelling like the Turkish Quran. So the Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia Quran has a lot of similarities in spelling with the Turkish Quran, but the Egyptian one's totally different. That's what many people have noticed. Now, what is very important is that Paris, so the French, have invaded Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia in the 19th century. And you could read this. What was Paris? Yeah, they're going to say it's in medieval Europe, but even in the 19th century, what did Paris become in the
Paris,
eyes of medieval Europe?
Paris became, in the eyes of medieval Europe, a new Jerusalem.
Yes, that's simply it. Paris was the new Jerusalem or the city of Islam, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. It was the city of Salam or Islam. This is very important. So I explained more about this in the video of the British Koran in Egypt. That the French went to attack Moscow or the city of the mosque, but the people weren't there. And then mysteriously, yes, in 1870, Paris just gets blown up. And the photographic evidence and many of these things are in that video, and people can find it. 1870, and the Central European forces, like the Germans and many others and their allies, they invaded and they just blew up Paris and the French cities. They must have been really angry. It was during the Napoleonic century, three Napoleons, Napoleon the First, Second, Third, etc. So now, when we look through the history of the entire region, it's like it's very strange that we can clearly see, this French-controlled territory. Yes, here is a map that shows it more, and it shows the French color. West Africa. That school is the Maliki school. Can you see it?
Yes.
Sunni Maliki,
Hmm.
and then the British territory. Yes, in India and in Egypt and what they occupied in the Levant, Pakistan, is the Hanafi school. Can you see it?
Yes.
Hanafi and the
Hmm.
Malik. Or maybe that's Malachi. It depends how you wish to pronounce it. And the strange thing is, you will see people commenting online everywhere, like Moroccans, Algerians, and Tunisians themselves. You could read what people say of, for example, when did the rise of Islam happen in Morocco? It's in blue there. You could read it.
As a result of a new stigma due to the occupation of the French and the rise of Islam in Morocco, this practice is now quickly disappearing.
Islam started to spread and rise when the French arrived.
Mhm.
Who was spreading Islam? Who gave the people Islam? Many of these cities are empty. I mean, they clearly look like just deserts. I mean, who the hell is going to be living in those deserts? There's no trees there. There's nothing there. No grass. There's no food. No vegetation. Where did the people come from? These are serious questions. If we can understand that, then we will understand where we came from, because it's a serious question. In Europe, America, in the Far East, we are asking, where did we come from? How did we learn these languages? How did we get these religions? So many practices in the country that people would call pagan or other things disappeared mysteriously after the French arrived. Things like this. And you will see that there was something going on after the French arrived that people are commenting. There's many blogs here. You could just read first paragraph. When did many things that people did in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia that are pre-Islamic? When did they die? When exactly did it die? These are Moroccans and Algerians talking. The first paragraph. When
Sure.
exactly did it die?
When exactly did it die in Morocco? People think Morocco was some secular beacon of progress in the 60s because They saw a picture of two upper class women in some university in a rich part of a major city wearing skirts that go down to the knees. The rest of Morocco was living in rural areas, still believing women getting an education was taboo. These tribes you glorify in these posts are also the ones that, to this day, still have the highest female illiteracy.
Okay, now you could read the top line. When did Islam spread? There's many people in Morocco, they're questioning and they're asking. So many people are saying, I think.
I think in the 1980s and 90s, with the Islamic revival that happened across the MENA region.
Yes. So the thing is, many people call it a revival, but the reality is we can't see these cities there. When did these people arrive? And even today, half the people in the region, in many places more than half, many of these people live in villages. And you can't see no Islam in some of these places whatsoever. So many people can see that Islam was spreading. It started after the French arrival, and people are questioning, and many people quote official history. So of course they get diverted. Here is people who are saying, what do they say about Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia? These are North African Arabs talking amongst themselves. What do they say?
Haven't we been Muslim majority for centuries?
People are asking, have we been, haven't we? Then it's strange. There's all this culture that is nothing to do with the current Arabic language or the current Islam or the Quran. You can't find it. Then people are going to quote books and saying Islamic imperialism, Arabs came out of the desert. But if anybody watches, the previous videos we did and other things, you could see Saudi Arabia was half naked, and they don't seem to have Islam either,
Hmm.
and things like this. So they don't seem to have either Islam either, and the Quran or this current French system. So now another thing is, many of the people, it's like the colonial times. There was good people and bad people. Like, what did the bad people do? For example,
As the French abducted and assaulted indigenous women with increasing frequency, tattoos became an talisman, a symbolic form of protection and.
well, basically, the French were, raping people, and the people who came with the French. It was a horrible time, what was going on in North Africa and West Africa for many people. But not everybody was bad. And not everybody was bad. There was things, what was going on. Some people would say there was progress. It's like the cities were built. The French came with their expertise of construction and other things. And so the thing is, when we look at the people of that time, we will find many strange things. Like, for example, if the people weren't living in the cities, where were they living? This is an example of a middle class family at that time, and they've got these clothes on, the white cotton, and you could see they're living in these like wigwam or tents that you would see Native American Indians living in America, similar buildings. It's like they've just arrived, but the clothes were made in factories in France, in Spain, in Italy, and in Europe. You can see that the children have got no shoes on. There is no way they manufactured that machine cotton. It
Mhm.
was made somewhere else. Somebody gave it them. Yes, so the thing is, where did these people come from? When did they get their clothes? What are they doing in the desert? You could see it's a desert there, there's nothing there. Who the hell would go to live there? It's strange. So by the 1950s and 60s, the people who were living in the cities, now the French and the Europeans built the cities, and then many of the natives came to live in the cities. And so what happened? The French failure?
French failure to grant full civic and political rights to the Muslim elite would eventually provide a strong impetus for the decolonization movement.
Okay, so we can see that the French are ruling these places. The French have given them education how the French wish to give some of these people that they found in the villages. And where did these people come from? So the French have now educated these people. And after they educated them, they taught them Arabic, they taught them Islam, and many of the things. Many of these people, France didn't give them full equal rights at the time, not like people have equal rights in France today. So this is when they wanted independence, these things. Now, many of these people were chosen by the French anyway, Yes, and they were educated by the French. So the more we look at the region, we see that there is something wrong. So when we look at the region, it's like, for example, the French and the Jesuits, the Masons and other people, they came from Europe. They went to Lebanon, they went to Tunis, they went to Cairo. For example, what were the Jesuits doing? The Jesuits opened their universities and schools, not only in Tunisia or other places, but in other parts like Lebanon, Syria. And what did they do? Phased that the Jesuits,
Phase that the Jesuits not only chose Arabic as a language of communication, but educated in Syria.
well, you've generally got the message. The
Mhm.
Jesuits were speaking in Arabic. Yeah, Jesuits and the people who came with them, colonial people, and all these things. So, why did they know Arabic already? They're Europeans who are going there and they're teaching people in the Middle East in the Arabic language. So, here you could read more. It's well known. Yes. For example, yes, in Syria and in Lebanon, you could read this Jesuits and Catholics.
Jesuits and Catholics were generally for the society's work in Syria and Lebanon, teach the French language. Catechism was in fact taught in Arabic.
Ah, so you can see that's in brackets. They taught French also, but they were teaching in Arabic. So these people spoke Arabic. You can see this, yes? So
Yes.
these Jesuits speak Arabic and they're teaching many of these native people Arabic and they're educating them in Arabic. So the question is, how can they teach in Arabic unless if they already knew this language? They must have known it. And it's like here is an example. I'm going to send a screenshot of an Algerian Quran. People can check it themselves. And here, when you see in these manuscripts that were printed in Europe today, they're the machines made in Europe now print many of these Qurans in the local areas. But here you will see even the Allah system symbol. I mean, not the system, the way the symbol is done. It looks like a symbol. Who invented the symbol Allah? And then I put two things in a red circle to show an example of that they've actually added extra words and extra symbols, Arabic letters in a sentence. This is supposed to be Bismillah Rahmani Rahim, but it's written in this manuscript Bismillah Al Rahman Al Rahim. It's like compared to the Oral Koran, it's a totally different word. Now, why would somebody change the words in the manuscripts? This is also in the Cairo Quran, not just the Tunis Quran or Algerian Quran. I mean, somebody has done this so that when the Oral Quran disappears, yes, people will be learning from these manuscripts. It's in the Arabic alphabet. If anybody asks an Arab, they will tell them, hey, I can read it if they've learned the language. And the thing is, there's extra symbols there. Who added them? Why? And why were the Jesuits and other people teaching in Arabic? And then if we went to Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Mali, Mauritania, Chad, and what do we know about the Arabic language? This is from a Muslim foundation, Hidayah Foundation.
It used in the
Yes.
Quran and in the holy books of Islam, no one speaks classical Arabic as a native, nor is it used for conversation.
Nobody speaks Arabic. So who took Arabic to this region and when? And they don't speak it today. So why could these Europeans, such as the Jesuits, know how to speak Arabic 100 years ago? This shows that Arabic came from Europe. Even to this day, Moroccans, Algerians, Tunisians, they don't speak Arabic. They learn it in school. You see? You can see this, yes?
Yes,
And
yes.
isn't it suspicious? Would you not find it suspicious that a language that they don't speak, but the Jesuits, and
Hmm.
they can speak this language? Is this not absolutely suspicious?
Very much. Highly suspicious.
Yes. If they don't speak this language, of course, they don't know this alphabet. So the Jesuits are coming along, they're opening schools, and the Europeans and other people, and they're educating these people. What the hell is going on? Can somebody tell me, please? What do you think is going on? Is it suspicious?
Well, my suspicion is that the language is introduced to the local population. There's kind of a displacement of the population, and people moved over somehow to the Northern Africa region, and the Jesuits and the different colonial governments established the education system and the language. So that's what my suspicion
Yes,
would be.
yes, they did, and we're going to go through the proof. And the thing is, if anybody wants to understand the masonry of the current Arabic alphabet, yes, the shapes and the designs, they were masonically designed. And
Mhm.
this is in my books. If anybody reads both these books, Secrets of the Kabbalah and 33 Degrees, they will be able to see how they were designed. And of course, when you go to the region, they're going to say, hey, Islam was revived, and Standard Arabic or Classical Arabic has been lost for. You could read this.
Why don't Arabs speak Standard Arabic anymore? No, Standard Arabic is not anyone's native language. It hasn't been in at least 1,000 years. Instead, Arabs speak one of many regional dialects. I'm
Yes.
guessing. Hmm.
For example, Egypt, yeah, in many villages, almost everybody, in many villages, people have different languages. It's shocking. They call them dialects, but actually they're languages in Egypt. You could find up to 25 different languages minimum. Yes, maybe even 100. And so, for example, Cairo University, yes, 100 years ago. This is very shocking. This is from Cairo University in Wikipedia. And when we check this out, it's very shocking. Yeah, problems. You could
Problems.
read it yourself.
Yes, problems during this period also included a lack of professional facility or faculty to fulfill the founder's educational vision. There were simply no Egyptians with doctoral degrees, the ability to teach in Arabic, and a familiarity with Western literature in their fields with whom to fill professional posts. Thus, European Orientalists who lectured in classical Arabic filled many posts until the 1930s. The university also sent
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What was that? What is that now? There were simply no Egyptians with doctoral degrees or Egyptians who had the ability to teach in Arabic until the 1930s.
Mhm.
Thus, European people, European Orientalists, give them a name, they've given them a name. Europeans lectured in classical Arabic and they filled many of the posts until the 1930s. This is just one institution. You will find a similar thing in many other places. And before then, yes, those local people who did have some of these jobs, where did they learn it from? That you will see their teachers were Europeans. So we can see here who is teaching these Egyptians in Cairo University classical Arabic, the language of the Quran. Who is teaching them this language?
Europeans.
Who? Is it Chinese or is it Europeans or is it
Europeans.
African? Europeans. So where would you say that this language came from? Africa or China?
Europe.
Yeah. Yes, it's becoming a little clear that there's something wrong. Yes, and then before, so now many of these teachers were trained in Europe. Let's go to see Paris. Yes, and what happened is that in Paris, people can check Institut National de Langue et Civilisation Orientale. For example, Wiet, Gaston Wiet, he was an assistant.
See, as an assistant professor in Lyon, where he taught Arabic and Turkish. Then a professor in Cairo. He was drafted in 1914, assigned to the Armée d'Orient as a second lieutenant. He ended the war with
Okay,
the rank of
okay,
captain.
okay. Now let's examine this. So these people, they're telling us this was the Institut National of Languages and Eastern Civilizations, and he was teaching people Arabic and Turkish in Paris. Then he was a professor in Cairo. but these people were military generals. So education, what we are thinking 100 years ago when we see institutes, Oxford University, these were colonial military centers. You see? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So now the thing is, in 1919, what did he do?
1919. In 1919, he assumed his teaching activities in Lyon and Paris. In 1926, he was appointed director of the Museum of Islamic Art, a position he held until 1951. He wrote 14 of the 35 volumes of the catalog of the museum, of which he did much to enrich the collections, particularly in the areas of items of furniture and
Okay.
epigraphy.
So we will find the same things, not just in Cairo, not just in Europe and other places. We are going to find many of these museums of Islamic art and other places opened by the Europeans in Cairo, managed by the Europeans, and many other things. And in Europe, they had colleges and excellent centers that were teaching the Arabic language. People can check all these things. They were teaching Arabic and Persian Arabic, and they were teaching not just Persian Arabic, Turkish Ottoman Usmanli Arabic also. They were teaching this in Paris. Yes, this is very important to know. So this means that all of these versions of Arabic were already in Europe. For example, if we go through the university records, of course they falsified it to make it look a bit older, but they're teaching like in this Institut National des Langues et Civilisations Orientales in France. What are they teaching? Discipline. You could go through the list.
Persian language, Arabic, Turkish language, modern Greek, Arabic, Persian, Turkish, Persian, Russian language.
Yeah, So the thing is, when they say Persian, this is the old Persian Arabic. They were also teaching this classical Arabic. That's the Arabic, and then the Turkish Ottoman Arabic. They're teaching this. Then they're teaching this Greek language, which mysteriously turned up. When Greek independence happened. Yes, and things like this. We could see modern Greek. And it's like many people won't believe it, but they invented ancient Greece. Ancient Greece did not exist, unfortunately. And people can see the evidence of this in my book with the secret mathematical codes with 19. It's shocking about the 19. They must have used, maybe computer technology to organize this 19. That ancient Greece, they totally invented it. They were teaching this Greek language. So many of these languages were invented. So they were teaching them in Europe. And
Hmm.
so, how could they do that? And unfortunately, many people won't want to hear this. I explained this in the video with Raphael that many people they took to build fake monuments, to build Cairo and all these other cities in the deserts in Egypt. They kidnapped them from Western Asia and India. Even the Western Asians, before they were in Western Asia, like Yemen, Oman, they were already from India. They kidnapped them and like often seemed like they kidnapped people and took them to work in the factories in New York and Philadelphia and in Chicago and Boston. They were kidnapping them from Europe and Eastern Europe. So you could read this. This is the reality of the story of like how many people came to Gaza, even in Palestine after World War One. What were the British doing? The British ruled Egypt, and then they took over Palestine from the Ottoman Germans who were defeated. So in 1917, you could read there, the British.
The British began to encourage the kidnapping of peasants to serve in their labor groups in Palestine. Thousands of fellahin were sent to Syria, Mesopotamia, and to France.
Yes. So they came from this Egyptian, and many of them who ended up in France or in Europe, the gypsies. It's a long story. And those people, before they came from Egypt, came from India. So the arrival of the Gypsies, Mesopotamia, places like Iraq. And people can check just during World War One, after World War One, just in Iraq, the British took Iraq, Syria, and Kuwait. The British took about 500,000 people, about half a million people, basically kidnapped thousands of these people who went and they intermarried with people who came from Ottoman lands and from the fall of Moscow 200 years ago. People have to watch that other video and they will have to read many of my books to understand this further. Um, I forgot exactly how many. They're going to say just to Iraq, they sent about, they took about a third of a million Indian, and they call them servants in 1917, I think it was, or 1918. I don't have the information in front of me. People will have to go and check it themselves. But anyway, they took many of them from there to Palestine, unfortunately. And at the same time, what happened is something was going on in Europe. So in Tunisia, many Europeans went to live in Tunisia, and many Europeans crossed the border to go live in Morocco in the 19th century. You could read where it says by the mid 19th century.
By the mid 19th century, the Jews who originated in Tuscany or other parts of Italy and settled in Tunisia during the course of the century were allowed to.
Okay, you basically got the message.
Mhm.
There's many people, they call them Jews, but it's not Jews, but because they don't talk about this history, but many Tunisians will say that they migrated from Italy. And they know that their grandparents can remember that their grandparents or their father was running from Italy. Something was going on, that nobody in Italy spoke Italian. So there was many people who were running from Italy going to Tunisia. Many people who they said Jews, but when they arrived over there, we don't seem to find any Jewishness within them. So it's very strange. So now we're going to go a bit more to this to have a look at what is going on in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia itself. And unfortunately, this is the reality. Tunisia was occupied in 1883 by the French, as many people from Europe are running over there. So they thought, hey, we're going to go over there. Now we're going to have to control the people. So many of these young Tunisians, yes, who wanted independence later, they were educated in France. The other thing, you could read the second paragraph. The party known as Young Tunisians was formed.
Yes, the party known as the Tunisians, Young Tunisians, was formed in 1907, who thought that the people of Tunisia should have self-determination rather than being a protectorate of France. The movement was inspired by the Young Turks of the Ottoman Empire and the Egyptian National Party led by Mustafa Kamil Pasha. They were French educated and advocated for the rights of Tunisians and French men. In 1908, the party supported the establishment of a constitution for Tunisia. They printed a newspaper called Le Tunisien. This was the first French language Arab newspaper in Tunisia. Their motto was okay.
Yes, these people were trained in Europe. Yes, they were educated by the Europeans. They were printing newspapers or documents or whatever with the machines that the French gave them. They didn't have these machines and other things. So it's very strange what is actually going on. And
Mhm.
the thing is, we will go through a few more details of what is actually going on. What did the French actually do while they were there in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia? What did they do for these people to turn around and think, hey, that we want independence? So
Mhm.
now the thing is, throughout the region, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Western Libya, you could read this. Yeah, madrasas means Islamic schools.
Right.
Madrasas.
Madrassas in Morocco were funded entirely by private charitable endowments. The larger endowments were then taken over by the proletariat government.
Yeah, by the French. So now what they are telling you is that there was all these Muslim madrasas there, and the French took them over. Like here is Agadir, and they're going to say the French went there and they took over the Muslim madrasas. Now I want you to tell me how many Muslim madrasas were there here. Can you
Probably
see
like,
any?
no, I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, the place is empty. I sent you another picture, which
Yeah.
is totally clear and it shows the place is empty. Yes, not just this one, there's many more.
Hmm.
This picture is probably 1920s or before then. So here is Casablanca. So
Hmm.
now, if you go there today, you would believe the French took over these Muslim Quranic schools called madrassas where they learn the Quran. Yeah, so here is Casablanca. Have a look there. Did the French take over any madrasas in Casablanca?
No, not
Can you
there.
see any madrasas?
There's nothing there. There's a guy and a buggy. That's
What, what happened to these madrasas? Where have they mysteriously disappeared to? Are you trying to tell me they disappeared? Yeah, here is a picture of Meknes. And Meknes, I think, around 1900. So if
mhm.
the French arrived, let's say, in the 1870s and 80s, how many of these madrasas can you see there?
Zero.
Yes, the people have just arrived. So now here we're going to go to the shocking history of Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia itself. Now here is the real deal. And yet you can read this in 1850.
In 1850, the French colonial administration also began to set up Franco-Arab universities in Algiers. Constantine and Tlemcen were where both the French language, science, and Islamic doctrine and law were taught, free of charge. Only people who had been educated in the Franco-Arab madrasas could be selected for the different officially recognized Islamic religious functions, such as mufti, imam, and muezzin. The colonial administration not only sought to control the nomination of Muslim religious personnel, it also controlled the sermons in the official mosques. In addition, the French looked for support from selected Sufi orders and confraternities. Those who agreed to cooperate were given authority and privileges, including, for example, a sponsored pilgrimage to Mecca. The French also became involved in the upkeep of mosques, though in a very unforthcoming way. Between 1830 and 1860, 5 new mosques were built in Algerian cities, which was far from being sufficient to compensate for the mosques that had been destroyed during the French conquests. Based on the inventory of the total mosques in French, decided to classify only 78 mosques as buildings that deserve to be preserved, whereas 1494 mosques were left to be worshippers to maintain.
Okay, so now the thing is, we can smell the lies in history that many of these cities, can you see, did they even exist
No,
150 years?
no,
So there's no cities there. If there is no cities there, yes. So now in downtown Casablanca, I challenge anybody. Bring me your proof. How many mosques are there here? How many mosques can you see there? I just
zero,
want you to tell me.
zero, zero. No
I
mosques.
don't believe you. I don't believe you. I'm an Islamist. I'm a Quranist. I don't believe you. There's ancient Qurans here. There's ancient Quran manuscripts here. The,
Hmm.
the Muslims have been memorizing the Quran for centuries here. Can't you see there's mosques there? Can't you see? Look carefully in the picture. The
Hmm.
people are invisible. So now many people are saying, hey, they're putting comments, hey, the Quran, Quran. It's like when I showed in my books that the Hebrew language was invented, it didn't exist, the
Hmm.
current Hebrew language. And it was invented. Yes, many Muslims were actually celebrating me. They were celebrating me. They could read about this in my book, Jerusalem is in Europe, and other things, the forgery of and the invention of Christian holy sites, and the forgery of Jerusalem's in Europe, the biblical Jerusalem, and many people supported me. Yes, especially Muslim people, because they didn't see it as a danger to, to the brainwashing or the lies in history that they've been brought up with. Or in my book, The Last Crusade, people could read that. There's a lot more information there, and in Skulls and Bones, it goes through a lot of the things that happened of the forgeries in Christianity, and these church buildings were not churches. The church buildings were not churches. But now that I'm talking about Islam, even you, many people have harassed you, saying in many things, almost like as if we're attacking the religion. This is not about religion, this is about history. And the thing is, they're telling us that the French destroyed original mosques. Many of these cities, we've only shown a few examples, many of these cities were not even there. They were not even there, so they couldn't have destroyed anything. It didn't even exist. So now let's look at the reality. The French opened up these universities to teach Arabic. That's why they're called Franco-Arabic, but because the French opened them. Yes, in Algiers, in Constantine, in Tlemcen, and they taught French also. These universities and schools are doing the same thing, and they were teaching Islamic doctrine and Islamic law. You know what the Quran says? It was basic Islam at the time. They just opened up, yeah, and they were teaching it free. You know, trying to bring people in. And
Hmm.
so these people who were taught in the Franco-Arab madrasas, yeah, they basically opened these madrasas. These people, then when they taught these people Arabic, they're teaching them Arabic, they're teaching them how to memorize this Quran. They brought this Quran, they brought this Arabic language. Nobody to this day, even now, they can't speak this Arabic language. They're still learning in these same schools because when they became independent, today it's called Algerian school, and the buildings have been modernized and updated. So the French trained these people to become muftis, imams, and other people. You see?
Hmm.
So they selected everything. They built the mosques. And they're going to say, yeah, there was mosques here before. Now they're going to say that there was Sufis or Bektash in Turkish. Yes, Bektash societies and other things. Now that's a totally different matter. That's a totally different thing. But another thing is, you know, especially after the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, the French were paying for people free to go to Mecca and Medina. Yes, to go to Hajj over there. And the French maintained the mosques, they financed them all. And so the 1830s to the 1860s was the beginning. 5 new mosques. Or before then, we can't seem to realistically find anything else. They were building mosques, they were training people to learn Arabic, and they were teaching them the Quran. And the local people, they'll tell you everywhere, we couldn't speak Arabic or anything and things like this. That if you go to Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, it's the same thing, Mali, Mauritania, Chad. And what they will say is that even today, you could read it yourself.
Even today, about half of the population speaks Berber still. Moroccan Darija is basically the format of the Berber languages with mainly Arabic.
But also French. They claim it's got a mixture of Arabic, yes. So that's why up to about half of the meanings, I've said this before, yes, of the Arabic Quran have now got mixed together with these dialects and these dictionaries. But what we can see is that the French are coming over. Yes, I'm teaching them. And if people are going to imagine these schools, they're imagining something modern. Believe me, it's not something modern or anything that people can imagine. In fact, let's go through a few of these schools and we'll have a look at them. Like, for example, here is a jewel, what they call Franco-Arab school in Al Jadida. I think they were teaching them Judaism there. You could read it at the bottom because they call it Franco-Arab and people are imagining a school. So what is this? École Arab?
I cannot read it.
École Arabe Français. Arabe
Okay.
Français.
Hmm.
At the bottom, you know, professor, élève d'école arabe français. That's what it means by Franco-Arab.
Uh,
These pictures are describing these. So when somebody reads it, they're going to think it's something professional. Franco-Arab school. No, these pictures show the reality. It's like it's just, this is a photograph from 1912. And you could see the teacher there, or if it's a Jewish school, it would be like a rabbi, yes, and it would be an imam, but these people were trained by the French. And so the reality is, this is what these schools were like. Now, it's not just there, the Europeans opened similar schools everywhere. Yes, so this one is in Al Jadida, it's Franco Arabic school. And if people want to know more details about the school, some people have written about it. You know, many people, like, for example, in January 1907, Al Jadida port became under French control. The Franco-Arabic school was opened there. They're teaching Arabic there. And the thing is, when you look at these teachers, you could see they're not exactly really teachers. And similar schools, the Europeans opened up in other sides of the world. Like here, you will see this is supposed to be Siwan mission day school in Bihar in India. Yes, and you will see on the right hand side, and they're teaching them. Yes, in some schools they're teaching Christianity, some they're teaching Hinduism, some they're teaching Islam, and you will see, yeah, they've got mosque hats there, but it's a missionary school, yeah, and other things. They've got mosque hats, and you can see the European colonial teachers there. Yes, you could see it. So now I'm going to show an example of a Franco-Arab school. Yes, here is another one 100 years ago in Morocco, in Mazagan. Yes, and you could see there's one of the local Arabs, maybe he's Jewish or maybe he's Muslim, I forgot which this school is itself. And the French trained these teachers, and then that's what they did. They educated these people. So it looks like somebody's going to turn around and say, and you could see the European teacher is, or the colonial master is standing there, and he's making sure that, the person who they trained is now training these young children. And
Mm-hmm.
these young children and all these other people, they're living in houses like this, that you
Mm-hmm.
could see that there was no schools or anything before the Europeans came. They're wearing the white cloth that was made in European machines. Yes, and here is more pictures that you could see. How are they living? Still living like this in the jungles of the Amazon, or in what we call dark Africa, in the jungles and swamps of Africa. Can you see these primitive buildings? And they've got white cloths on, and many of these people have got some clothes on because the Europeans gave them clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, the Europeans gave them clothes. So many people will imagine there was big city there, Al Jadida. Al Jadida is a star fort, and you could see what it looks like at the time. And here, you will see what it looks like today. So where did these people come from? Why did they need education? Why did the Europeans open up these Arabic schools so that they could learn Arabic? You can't know the Quran without this Arabic. They taught them the Oral Quran with the oral original meanings. Then the dictionaries were updated and modified
Mm-hmm.
in other sides of the world, like Lebanon by the Freemasons and the American University in Beirut. But let's have a look at this picture. Here is a Franco Arabic school in Mesheria. And what you could see is, if you look carefully at this picture, that you will see that people came from many different backgrounds. They even brought people from India to Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and they brought, and the British tried to stop. The French tried to stop Black Africans from going north. Yes, they tried to stop this, but many of them went because of the French army, and they interbred. That look carefully, you will see white European children there, as well as Indians, the mixed race, and you could clearly see the European teacher there and all these things. And they're wearing the white cloth that was made in European machines. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not just there. Here you will see. So over there, they're teaching them Arabic. Now here in Madras, they're teaching them in India. They're teaching the Madrasi language, which is very beautiful. And you can see they've all got the same white cloths, and you'll see some Hindu people there and Christian people there, but they've basically brought these peasants and everybody, and they're giving them an education. So you can see this, that's in Madras. Here is another place. You have to compare it worldwide. You cannot just judge from one place. Here is in Ranchi, and these people, of course, they taught them Christianity. They taught them the local dialects and the languages, many Jesuit fathers and other things, and Protestant fathers. It doesn't matter which one. The empires took these Europeans, and today those people are called the Christians of India. But they're going to tell us Indians have been Christians for centuries, which is just a scam. And here you will see Malabar in India, same like they're saying these people in the Middle East have been following this type of Islam for centuries. Here is in Malabar, and these people, they baptized them, as you could see. There's Europeans there, and they were teaching them, and the Europeans built that building. These people had no idea. And now here, we're going to go through the shocking part. The shocking part. The Europeans took souvenir photographs in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. Here is, you could read it under Algeria Cartes Postales Ancients. What is this picture?
Un école coranique.
Yes, une école Quranic. This is a Quranic school
Mm-hmm.
in 1905 in Jazair. in Algeria, in Jazair. Jazair
Mm.
is how it's pronounced. And you've got the Europeans. They've gone there and they've opened these Quranic schools. Soon we will have a look at the faces of these teachers, and many of these teachers are people who they taught themselves. First, they taught them in the cities, in Constanza, Algiers, and in Tlemcen. They opened these centers, and then those people who became teachers, they sent them out to all the villages. And the thing is, so what they did is they sent these people, and these are now the Quranic schools of how to memorize the Quran, and they're taught the original meanings of the Quran, the oral Quran. And they're being taught standard Arabic like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now in Arabic it goes Alif, Ba, Ta, Sa, Jim, Ha, Ka. Yes. So what they did is they opened these schools, madrasas. And in Tlemcen, here is the one that the Franco-Arabic school where they're teaching them Arabic and these other things. Here is it says madrasa, madrasa, and you could read it. Des élèves in French.
Les élèves de la madrasa de Timsien au début
Tlemcen.
du Tlemcen au début du
Okay, it's difficult. It's difficult. But
yes.
basically, here is the madrasa of Tlemcen, the Franco-Arabic school that the French opened, in the beginning of the 20th century. And they brought these people, and you could see these people are in rags, and they're slowly training them in Arabic and in the Quran. Now, those people, this is a city, and the French opened it, and those students, when they grow up, they went out to the villages. The French sent them out to go and teach the village people Arabic and the Quran. Now, when we look at how many of the local people lived, many of them were actually naked. You could find the naked pictures online. I'm not posting them here. And many of them they came from India after the Suez Canal. The French brought them for construction of these Stafford cities like Algiers and Oran. But this is how the people live. As you could see, they clearly cannot read and write. And the white cloth they've got there was made in machines. And so soon we will see that slowly these people they learned how to pray. Somebody taught them how to pray. Somebody taught them the Arabic. So now let's go through, and I will read the next one because it's actually difficult. But have a look at this picture. You will see these are like the Jesuit sisters or the European teachers. They're called the White Sisters that the Europeans sent. And here is a school for girls in Kabylie. And what they did is, you can see the people are half naked. The French gave them the rags and the clothes, and they don't have shoes. But here is, actually read the first paragraph, dans les cartes. For the first paragraph, or people will say I'm making this up. You could see the white European ladies who are there, and what are they doing? Just read the first paragraph.
Dans l'école représente école coranique et madrasate nous
That's
ni
okay.
yes.
Okay, that's simple. So when the Europeans did this, they took photographic evidence. You are going to find hundreds of photos all over the world. Dans les cartes means in this picture, basically in this card, represents, it shows the Quranic school, madrasa. And who is teaching them there? Who are the teachers in this Quranic madrasa school? Is it the great Arabic priests, or who do we see there? The Jesuit sisters, I call them that, the white sœurs blanches. Who do we
Yes.
see there? The Europeans teaching them the Quran and the Arabic language, or do we see Chinese teaching them?
European Jesuit
Yes,
nuns.
and even to this day, these people still haven't learned these languages, Arabic, but they memorized the Quran and they memorized the basic meanings. So those people who came first from Europe gave them these original meanings before these dictionaries spread. Of course, they took pictures in a nice way so that they could send them back to Paris. Yes, here they've got the students half naked with no shoes. Here is a European father, a white father in Kabylie, and you could read the first line.
Kabylie,
Kabylie.
une classe d'Arabes à la mission de Paris Blanc.
Okay, here is une classe d'arabe à la mission de paix blanc. Yes, the Kabylie are a group of local people. They call them Arabs today, or they call them Berber sometimes, or they call them Algerians. sometimes. This is an example. These are the White Fathers. People can look for the Père Blancs. The White Fathers, a Jesuit type of organization like the Jesuit Fathers, and they're teaching them Arabic. So here they took this photograph, and this is in 1903. So they're teaching them Arabic, how to write it. And they're teaching them how to write it and all these other things. And so they went there. So here is another picture. Here we can see in these villages, you can see these white fathers who came from France and from Italy and other places called Le Père Blanc. And they're teaching them Arabic and how to memorize the Quran and how to pray. And they're teaching them the basic meanings of the Quran. These pictures are available because they were working there. They had to send photographic evidence back to Paris, to the capital, to the New Jerusalem. You've got here is you know, a European. He's teaching them Arabic and the Quran. Yeah, can you see it? You
Hmm.
can see these things. So slowly, as these schools grew bigger and bigger, you know, the buildings became bigger, but they're going to tell you they're ancient schools for centuries in these mosques. You can see the people are still on the floor in rags, and then the children that they originally taught. Let's say you teach somebody, he grows up, then he is now a local person. He's going to teach a local person. Like here is another Quranic school, and as you could see, there's all types of mixed races there, Indians, whites, and other things, and the people mixed in together. And
Hmm.
so these were the Quranic madrasas. We can't seem to find them before the Europeans arrived, and the people were naked before the Europeans arrived. I'm sorry, this is what the evidence shows. People, even to this day, cannot speak Arabic in the entire region. They've learnt a few words in schools. When we look at these, like the French built mosques and other things, like you could still see the people have got no shoes on. And here is outside a mosque, Algeria, you know, in the 19th century, in Sidi Okba, l'Oasis de Sidi Okba, Okba, however they pronounce it. You could see the people there. And so they're waiting to pray and go in, but you could clearly see that they're wearing these white rags. You could see they're uneducated people. And they were given the Quran, they were given the basic meanings before the dictionaries came. So the Oral Koran, we seem to find the start of it there. The people don't have no shoes or anything, and they're in extreme poverty. That you will see there's black people, Indian people that they brought, and white Europeans and other people, and they're teaching them this language, Arabic, and there's many different dialects there. Yes, that slowly developed. It's because they brought them from many different places. Does it look like these people have been preserving the Quran for centuries? There is another history that many people ran from Europe, yes, from Moscow, to preserve the Quran in Ottoman territories. Yes, the old world history, and many people ran from Europe to preserve the history in North Africa. That's a totally separate history. But what is clear is that the French came and they opened these schools. Nobody can speak Arabic, and they learn it in schools because the French opened these schools. They force you to learn these languages. Like Jazair, Algeria has its own language, Algerian Darija, and in different regions, it's basically a different language in some places. But now it's becoming standardized. Some people call it Berber. You could read this. The first up to the comma. I agree.
I agree. Algerian Darija is its own language.
Yes, it's not Arabic. Nothing to do with Arabic. Yeah, they picked up Arabic words. Yes, and people will call it. It's. They will say it's Algerian Arabic, but the people who speak this language will say no. And so in Tunisia, if you went there, they've got their own Darija, Tunisian Darija. Yes, or Tunisian Arabic. Yes, but what do they say? You could read this about what the people say.
Welcome to our guide on Tunisian Arabic, locally known as Darija. Derja, a unique dialect distinct from Standard Arabic.
Yeah, Standard Arabic is used for official things. Yeah. So in Tunisia, they have their own local dialect, but within the villages and from north and south, there are differences. It's like because they brought some people came from Europe, some people came from Egypt. Before Egypt, they came from Yemen. Before that, they came from India. And many of them they intermixed, and there was already some natives there that they call Berber and other things. And so we find the same thing even if we go to Libya. Yes, Libyan Darija, nobody speaks Arabic. Like, for example, you could read this paragraph.
For example, Libyan Darija has been marked by Italian words, Tunisian by French and Italian, and the Algerian dialect has mostly been influenced by French. Moroccan Darija, due to its geography and its colonial past, integrates French and Spanish words.
Yes, and now they've integrated Arabic words. So what we can see is that many people from Spain actually left what is known as Andalusia. Andalusia, they said Muslim Spain collapsed in 1492, but it looks like it must have been, in the 19th century. They say it's in 1492 and the Jews were expelled. And the thing is this, the Muslims were converted to Christianity, but they're going to say it's like 600 years ago, 550 years ago. But the thing is, what we can see is that many of these places in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, especially in Morocco, were empty. And it looks like the people who left Spain and were expelled from Spain, it must have been in the 19th century, because we could see the people are naked or living in like, caves or like in tree huts and things like this, like they've just arrived. It's a little clear. Yes or no? What would you say?
Yes, yes, I would say so.
Yeah, yeah, it's clear. The Moroccans, Algerians, Tunisians, you can see many of them have just arrived, and these cities are not there. Of course, they've arrived. They've come from somewhere, and so many were brought from India. But that's another long story. And so the thing is, okay. So now we can see. Let's go back to this again and think clearly.
Hmm?
Yes, let's think clearly. The French set up these Franco-Arab alleged universities, which were not very small schools. They were teaching a bit of French, and they were teaching how to practice Islam, how to pray. They were teaching Arabic. That's why they were called Franco-Arabic schools. They opened up all these Quranic madrassas. The teachers came from Europe, Europeans, the Père Blanc, same like the Jesuit Fathers and other people. And the photographic evidence is there. The people will even tell you things like this. The French built mosques, they opened mosques, and Islam spread slowly starting from the 19th century. Even to this day, people can't speak Arabic in the entire region. And the thing is, we mentioned a little about the history of Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia before. And yeah, people have left their comments on your video, for example. And here is somebody from Morocco. He's saying, I'm from Morocco. All this stuff is real. Me too. Another proud Moroccan says. Yes, and there's other comments by Moroccans. People can ask them. There's thousands of Moroccans, millions throughout Europe and America. Here is somebody who says, I can go even further. I recently had an old memory coming up about some acquaintances joking about a family member of them living in the mountains of Morocco. I remember hearing like 10, 15 years ago, but I'm not sure when it took place, but it must have been from an older date. These acquaintances were telling about a lot of people in the mountains not even knowing who Muhammad was or Islam. Apparently, someone had an uncle who was not even aware of praying, had never heard of Muhammad. When they found out, they laughed so hard because, in their eyes, this was absolutely bizarre. The uncle was asking them questions: who is this? Who was Muhammad? And people were making fun of this uncle, and they taught him the prayer afterwards. I have even been to Morocco. I've seen this myself. In many villages, there's many villagers who are on the outside. People don't even know Muhammad or Islam or anything. And many people are saying that the acceleration of the spread of Islam must have happened. This person says, don't know when this happened. Maybe in the 70s, 80s. If so, you imagine that the Islamization, at least in Morocco, must indeed have been very recent, like David points out, maximum 150 years ago. So while they were laughing at their uncle, thinking he was an absolute retard, yes, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was actually them who were retards, completely brainwashed, while their uncle is in fact testifying about a society without Islam. Yeah, so people are leaving these comments, and people can check. They can ask people in Morocco. That's why I said go to the mosques, and ask them about the Oral Koran and the original meanings before the Masons updated the meanings and other things. Like here is somebody else who was saying, so only one generation away in Morocco, in the 1950s, where people had tattoos and many other un-Islamic things. And they said, how could this have been possible if Islam has been here, for 1,000 years? And they say, something is not adding up. I agree with David. I remember the family of my mother couldn't even pronounce Bismillah right before they started to eat and would always say Bismillah instead. Also, it is very known fact in the Maghreb, that means Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, that after the French left, after supposedly losing the colonial wars, these Arab governments were put in place and they would oppose the local people, making it forbidden for them to speak their local dialects or languages and have their local names. Basically, they now started having Arab names. So these things have only happened in the recently. And this person says, I think it was in that time from the 1950s and onwards that Islamization really started, because I'm pretty sure that most women up until the 90s did not wear hijabs. You can also see this in old pictures. I'm not sure which region he's talking about here or district. Women wearing mostly hijabs is a very recent phenomena which has started late 90s. Again, something is not adding up. So the history does not make sense. I mean, the French are opening Islamic schools. The French are opening up Islamic madrasas. What do you think is going on here?
Seems like kind of a education or re-education. The Europeans coming in there,
And then,
and
do you think the Quran, the Oral Quran, and the Arabic language has been there for centuries?
no, no,
How long would you say it's been there?
probably about 100 years.
Yes. Yeah, 100 years. It accelerated after the Second World War more as people came to live in the cities, in the 60s, 70s, 80s. It's like I actually have friends in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia. Here is a conversation from WhatsApp, and here is somebody from Algeria in a village outside Algiers, and this is in Arabic, and here is translation. They've got the Quran in Algerian over there, and this is what this woman says. What does she say? You could read the translation.
Yes, my sister says that some women came to her and were talking about the Quran. They memorized the Quran in the mosque. They told her that the Quran that we read at home is completely different from the one that they memorize in the mosque.
Yes, many of these past tense, future tense, past participle, verbs, nouns, spellings in these manuscripts in different countries are not the same. But then the Oral Quran, who set up these Islamic schools, madrasas, so that these people could learn Arabic and the Oral Quran? Who was it? Was it the Chinese, the French, or was it the Africans? Who would you say?
The
Who is it?
French. The French.
Yes, in that region, it was the French. So let's have a look at what the French did. They were there for 100 years in these places. And of course, let's have a look at first there was small schools, 10, 20 students, then they built buildings and everything's you could read this, the first paragraph.
French education, given its restricted accessibility and its assimilationist nature, further fragmented the colonized. Students discovered that even their Muslim instructors believed that French values and institutions ensured genuine progress. Colonial curricula taught Arabic, the sacred language of the Quran, as a foreign language, though there were some important educational initiatives from World War II. By 1954, more than 90% of the colonized were illiterate, and only 1 out of 10 Muslim children attended primary school.
Okay, these primary schools were originally madrasas or Quran schools. Some of them didn't even have a building. So we are talking that by 1954, only 10% of the children went to school to learn this Arabic. This is why even today nobody can speak this Arabic. They still learn it in school. So and then the colonial curricula, because there was many Europeans living in these cities, they taught French to them. And many of the locals wanted to learn French. They're saying, why are we learning this Arabic? So they were being forced to learn this Arabic when they had their local languages, dialects. Many words have are Indian words, Spanish words, French words, and Berber words. And it was being taught as a foreign language, basically, because the locals couldn't speak this Arabic. So they were being taught in these schools. They're being taught Arabic. The French were teaching them Arabic in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. This is clear. Yes, of course, many people will try to deny it. But now let's have a look at these, Jesuit fathers or the White Fathers. I call them Jesuit fathers, but they're called the Père Blanc. Here they are in a village. This was a school, and they're teaching them, the Quran, and they're teaching them Arabic. Yeah, you could see it's a primitive place. So now in the official history, they have to make it nice. So they've modified it. This is a bit long. Yeah, so I will try to read it fast. For example, after World War One, Marshall was instrumental in setting up the Institut de Belles Lettres Arabes, basically, an Arabic institute. They established it at Tunis, and this institute taught Arabic, the Quran, and basic Islamic law and Islamic history. They were teaching them about the Prophet Muhammad, who he was. They were teaching them how to pray, things like this, wash your head, your hands, and your feet. They're teaching them the A, B, C, D, E, F, G in Arabic. They were teaching them how to memorize the Quran. But so now we're talking from 1927. 51 missionaries of Africa were admitted as students between 1927 and 49. Yeah, this is just one building. Yes, there's many of these places that the Europeans opened up. They were joined in 1932 by Monsieur de Foucault's little brother of Brothers of Jesus. After the Second World War, two centers were created. IBLA at Tunis remained a center of research and publications. Yes, while the formation program moved to La Manuba. In 1960, the latter was recognized by the Vatican and eventually moved to Rome, becoming the Pontifical Institute of Arabic and Islamic Studies. Oh, so in the end, it was recognized by Daddy himself. Yes, Daddy is. I don't know if you know your dad by now. Yes, but here is Daddy. Do you know this man?
Well, I don't know him, but it looks like the Pope Benedict, I think.
Yes, yeah, it's Dad. It's Daddy. He's saying hello. Say hi. Yes. So Daddy saying hello. So he's now recognized, these European Arabic schools. So in 1937, Marshall organized a conference at Bunu in Kabylia, attended by all the mission superiors and the director of IBLA. The conference produced some important conclusions. And this is what they say. The goal of these teachers who are teaching Arabic, who are teaching Muslims how to pray, the Maliki system, Islamic theology, and the history, basic history, what they call hadith. Yes. And so the goal of the missionaries' educational establishments was not to convert to Christianity, was not proselytism. Yes. So these, White Fathers or Jesuit Fathers, I call them, but they're White Fathers. Their job was not to convert people to Christianity. And so what was their job? You could read after I've read out the goal of the missionaries.
The goal of the
Second paragraph.
missionaries' educational establishments was not proselytism. The importance of learning Kabili and of studying Islam was stressed, but there should be no haste in promoting individual conversions to Christianity.
So the goal of the missionaries, these teachers who came from Europe, who were teaching Arabic, Islamic theology, Islamic law, and history, how to pray, everything in these villages and there throughout Algeria, their goal was not to convert people to Christianity. And what was important was studying Islam was stressed. That was the purpose. So that's what they told these teachers. Many of these teachers were probably Christians. So, of course, they had to tell them something like, hey, why are you doing this? Yeah. So the teachers, of course, asked Daddy, and they asked the French, Daddy, I mean, the Pope, they must have asked Daddy, saying, Dad, why are we teaching them this religion called Islam? Aren't we supposed to be Christians? So that's what they say. So now the thing is, Of course, they've given an invented history and they're saying there should be no more denigration of Muhammad or demonstration of the falsity of Islam. And it's saying the aim was not primarily to administer baptism, but to save souls. For Marshall, there was no salvific truths from the Bible in Islam, and Muslims, he believed, could be saved through them if they were understood in the light of supernatural faith. So this is just a fake history they've added on. The errors of their religion, blah, blah, blah. They go on, but it says the duty of the missionaries was to educate the people, awaken consciences, the sense of sin, humility, and conversion of the heart. Yeah, so basically, they were teaching them Islam, you see? And they're
Hmm.
saying, that in short, Muslims would become Christians without knowing it by learning the Quran, memorizing the Quran. So this is the fake history. It's, in other words, let me just show you an example. It's like there's many young people who go all over the world. Like if you're from America, you could see, let's see, Mormon missionaries Africa. Yeah, so from the Mormon Church, what they do is they send, missionaries to Africa today, and of course, many of these people they go there, and their job is not to convert people to Christianity. Some of them have the job to convert to Christianity, but they're going there. They're teaching them English, you see, and then they teach the Bible at the same time, or and things like this. So what they did is, yeah, these young people who volunteer, look at the photograph, two nice gentlemen from America, very decent people, no doubt, and many of them paid their own way. So they found nice people in Europe and they sent them saying, hey, teach them Arabic and teach them the Quran. So many of these people, they must have known Arabic. And they said, if you go there and you teach them this, they're going to become Christian, which was a clear lie. They lied to these young people, and or people who had a nice heart, sent them there so that they can teach them Islam. You see? You
Hmm.
see?
Hmm. Hmm.
So basically, they were teaching them Arabic, Quran, and they were teaching them the Arabic language, how to pray in Arabic, and all these things. Don't you find this very strange?
I do. Yeah. Very
Yes.
strange.
Isn't it suspicious?
It is. It is suspicious.
And what they did is, yeah, these people known as the White Fathers, they're like another organization like the Jesuits, yeah, Père Blanc. So you could read this starting from what after it says the White Fathers.
Okay, in 1874, Lavarege took an important step in removing barriers to Muslim reception of the gospel when he found the Société des Missionnaires d'Afrique, Society of Missionary of Africa, popularly known as the Peri Blancs or White Fathers, after the white Arab cassock and woolen scarf they adopted. The White Fathers learned Arabic and embraced many of the customs of the Muslim peoples during whom they served in hopes of easing the way for gospel transmission.
So basically, they set up an organization. This is one, there was many, Society of Missionaries for Africa. So they were called Père Blanc, in the 1870s, they set up, and they dressed same like the poor people, not like Arabs, just like white cloths and everything because the people were poor. These people, they spoke Arabic and they behaved like the local people. And what they did was they were told, same like the Mormon missionaries, they were told that you're going there and these people will become Christian if you teach them Arabic and if you teach them the Quran. Can you see? They were brainwashed. Even the
Hmm.
teachers who went there, you've got to lie to them of what you're doing. But realistically, what's really going on here is that we could see is that the French Empire and the people in power in Europe are spreading Islam. They're teaching people this Quran. They're sending this Arabic language. They're passing this oral Quran.
Yes.
Yes. And the thing is, you know what they will teach us in history? They're going to say that these Jesuit type of missionaries, yes, these Jesuit fathers or Père Blancs, they will say, have a look at what Lavigérie, what he said, his edicts. Lavigérie edict said that Africans.
Lavigeri's edict that Africans should not be taught European languages and should be educated in their own languages.
Okay, that's what he's saying, but and they're trying to say that Arabic is the language of the local people. Can these people speak Arabic?
No, they cannot.
So they are educating people, teaching them Arabic, and the Arabic Quran and how to pray and do everything else.
Yes.
Can you see it? And not only Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, these people went to, but they went to Mali, Mauritania, Chad as the mission spread. You know, every 5 years expansion, they went more south. So you could read this. The White Fathers learned.
The White Fathers learned Arabic, des Pays Blancs, and Tunisia at Alger and Calabria, Sahara.
Yeah, you basically got it. So they started going south. So, for example, this organization, they set up in Tunis. Then they spread to Algeria, then to the mountains, to the Berbers, Kabylie, and all these things in the Atlas region. Then they went further south in the Sahara to Mali, Mauritania, and Chad. If anyone checks the geography of these places, you will see these things. And they're saying we are teaching these people in their own language. How could they have done this when what do you call it, when nobody can speak Arabic? You see? So now this Father Marshall. So here you can read this yourself. Yes, you could read this about Father Marshall. Yes.
Father Marshall was appointed headmaster of the little school in which French and Arabic were taught to Arab children and a few Mozabite ones.
Ah, so now they're going to turn and say they were Arabs, but these people don't speak Arabic. So now they're teaching them Arabic and a little French. That's how the French dialect got there. And you know, this is just Father Marshall himself. So what we can see when we are seeing that they're teaching these people, they're teaching them in primitive ways. So that's why we can see that they're, you know, that's how the French words got into the languages. So they weren't proper schools as we saw from the photographic evidence. Yes, like here we could see the White Sisters. They're teaching these people in Arabic. Oh, those sisters who were there, can you see them? Let me just enlarge it. Yes, the two white European sisters. And then you can see some of the natives are a bit wider, some are darker, some like in Indians, they interbred with African soldiers that the French brought from the south. So these sisters were told, teach them Arabic, teach them the Quran, and they will become Christians. But teach them in their own language. Oh, Arabic is their own language. But guess what? These people don't speak Arabic. These people are not Arabs. Arabia was Europea. Europea.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, you can see, would you say this is a total scam? Or am I just making it up?
No, very much a total scam.
It's a total scam. You see, and the other thing is, for example, let me just show you the history, and you will find this very shocking. Like, for example, let me just show the Uyghur region is in China. So now let's have a look at this. That you will be surprised. It's so far away from this side of the world. It's so far away from Europe. So let me just find a map, and I'm going to show. So it's in Western China, you know, on the borders of Russia and on the borders of Kazakhstan. Yes, and there's a group of people there called they're Uyghurs, and many of them look like Russians in the north. In the south, they look like Indians and Pakistan people. So this is very important. So now here we have the Uyghur region in China. And so when we look at the official history, what they are going to tell us is some pathetic garbage. This is what they tell us about the Uyghurs. In fact, you could read this yourself. The Church of the East.
Church of the East, commonly known as Nestorians, reached Central Asia, Mongolia, and China by the 7th century CE. The Turpan texts dating to the 9th and 10th centuries include translations of Christian sacred texts into several languages, including Christian Old Turkic. The tribe of the Hurrites was known to be predominantly Christian from the 11th century and to the time of Genghis Khan. Likewise, the Naiman and Ongug tribes were evangelized from the 11th century. The Uyghur people were later Islamist.
Ah, okay. So they're basically saying the Uyghur people and other people in that region that they've got ancient texts and they became Christians and then they became Muslim later. So now the strange thing is nobody can find any Christians in the entire region over there until these Christians mysteriously turned up. You could read from the second paragraph No, I'll read the first. So they give a list of names of European teachers who went to Uyghur area. Some people call it Uyghuristan, or it's in Central Asia. We've got Magnus Backlund, Nels Frederick Hodger, Father Hendricks, Joseph Masser, Anna something, Albert, Gustav, Stina, John, Gosta, and all these other people went. And then we've got an Uyghur convert, and these people studied the Uyghur language. Well, they say they studied them. And then they wrote works in the Uyghur language. And then they say a Turkish convert to Christianity. They went to China to spread Christianity to the Uyghurs. Now you could read the next paragraph. What happened?
There were several hundred Uyghur Muslims converted to Christianity by the Swedes. Imprisonment and executions were inflicted upon Uyghur Christians, converts, and after refusing to give up his Christian religion, and the Uyghur convert Habil was executed in 1933. Ultimately, in 1938,
Okay, you basically got the message that there was basically no Christians there until these missionaries arrived. And when we check the evidence, we can see, these missionaries, because they got funding from colonial empires. So here we have Swedish missionaries who went from India through the East India Company territories and from the principalities. And what do? You could read this. Fast forward.
fast forward to the late 19th and early 20th century when Swedish missionaries traveled over the mountains from India to set up schools and medical clinics in the south of East Turkestan, as it was known in those days, and began to win the trust and support of many of the community.
Ah, so they're going there, they're being charitable and nice. And then they set up these schools. And then these people mysteriously became Christians. So, in a similar way, we will find how many people became Christians in many other parts of the world. And in this picture, you can see the Christian missionary with the hat on in the back, and then other people. So, and the thing is, yes, they mysteriously, same like other places. Yeah. What type of children were in this school who became Christians? You could read at the bottom of the picture, Uyghur children.
Uyghur children living in the Yurken orphanage. They were orphans.
Ah, so of course, if you've got an orphan, you could teach them whatever you wish.
Yep.
You see? Yes, so that's what was really going on. It was the reality. Yes, but of course, they're going to tell us, there was a Christian community for centuries. We found historical documents, manuscripts, this, that, Chinese documents, Turkic documents, and all this to prove the ancient Turkish language and all these other things, the ancient Turkic Arabic, and all these other things. Now, when we look more, let's go back to Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. In the same way, they spread Islam and these other things. So, of course, they're going to give us a bit of bogus history here. And the early 19th century, a lot of it has got fake history. But they say the Convention of Beaumont had marked the surrender of Algeria's day in 1830 and assured that the French would guarantee the right to Islamic practice in 1830. That's what the documents show. But there is evidence to show these documents are a forgery because we can't seem to find the Quran or the Arabic language or this Arabic alphabet or the design of anything Arabic there with these people until the French arrived. It was after them. And then it didn't even pick up very well until the 20th century. It's like we've only got a handful of people only at the beginning of the 20th century who had become like, who'd got to know this Arabic. It was like the elites and all these other people. And the masonry of this current Arabic alphabet, it's not the same as the Arabic that was used in Osmanli Arabic or in Northern Europe. And a lot of it has been masonically designed and invented. This is more in my book, 33 Degrees and Secrets of Kabbalah. It's actually shocking what we can see in the symbols. But back to the last page, and what we see is that the Christian missionaries, many people, many Christians wanted to bring Christianity to these people. But the colonial administrators are saying we are going to respect indigenous languages in their religion. So, and then they're saying we're going to teach them Islam. But the reality is we can't seem to find Islam there whatsoever, or this Arabic language or anything, and even today. And you could read the second paragraph. The French, however,
The French, however, also thought to gain control over Islam. The officers of the Bureau Arab, regional administrative bureaus, which informed and advised the colonial administrators, were given complete authority over all matters touching on Islam.
Yes, basically, yes. They are trying to tell us Islam was there before, so was Arabic and all these things. But the reality is, the French controlled all the matters, everything to do with Islam, the language, the customs of Islam, of how to pray in Islam, and everything. That in fact, at the time, yes, and many Algerians, these are videos, people could find them online, and many things in Algerian Post that in the middle of the region, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, that the French were spreading a type of pilgrimage for a Kaaba or a Mecca over there, and there's even maps from colonial times which they will say we are older, and they will say, hey, there was a place there called Medina, Becca or Mecca, and things like this. So you will find this in the maps, and the place was known from these maps, Barbaria, but the French basically published these maps and other things we can see. So, and many people have said that this history is there. Same like the British on the other side, and there's Mecca, and then there was the Russians and the fall of Moscow and the other Kaaba. Yes, is more recent, and it looks like there was some type of pilgrimage that happened in Russia, for example, in northern Russia, in Volga Bulgar, and in Moscow, and there was pilgrimage going on to Istanbul also, which was seen as a Jerusalem, and there was some type of pilgrimage by a few people going to a place called Mecca in Arabia. Yes, but these things were, and a pilgrimage somewhere in Algeria, but basically the current Hajj system, the current Islam, and all these things, and the Oral Koran in many of these territories is only up to just 200 years old. And we can't seem to find it any older. And we can find European people going there who are teaching them, this Arabic, and teaching them Islam. There is the French Quran, things like this. So that's what we can really find. Let me just show about the French Quran. I call it the French Quran or the Warsh Quran. It's like many people don't know this about the Warsh Quran, but let's examine this Warsh Quran and compare it to the Cairo Quran. And because many people say that the Cairo Quran, yes, that was compiled under the British administration by Al Azhar University, Lord Cromer selected the chief mufti of Al Azhar, who selected the team and established it, that compiled the 1924 Egypt Quran. And Mufti Abdu was one of the first he selected, and then he was replaced. He was selected by Lord Cromer himself. Yes, that's a long story. I'll have to go through that some other time, but let's go through, let me see, the Tunis Quran. So now when we go through the Tunis Quran and the Cairo Quran, yes, in the Cairo Quran that's there, what we will find in the 1924 manuscript in the British authorized Quran, because the British were ruling this place, people say, what do they say in this manuscript in the Cairo Quran?
The term Quran code, also known as Code 19, refers to the claim that the Quranic text contains a hidden mathematically complex code.
Yes, with the number 19, code 19.
Hmm.
You can see it says also known as code 19. So now
Yes.
what many people don't know is that when we look at the Quran that's used in Morocco and Algeria and Tunisia, wait, let me just show you the Warsh Quran, that also has a 19 code. Yes, what many people don't know. Yes, people will be shocked, unfortunately. Yes, so here is the Arabic Quran in that's Warsh is used in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia in the French territories, basically.
Hmm?
So this is used in the French territories. And so many people don't know, and many people are going to say, hey, the Cairo Quran is the one, the Hafs Quran is the one from God. Oh, there's these codes there and everything. But let's have a look at the codes in the Warsh Quran. So, for example, they say that the code 19 in the Egypt's Cairo Hafs Koran was discovered by Dr. Khalifa, and he
Mhm.
made a claim there are two extra verses in chapter 9, and he said they're false. And he said, thus by removing the two verses, he was able to show a code 19 in this Quran. But
Mhm.
if we apply the same mathematical view or system to the Warsh Quran, then we find that the verse numbers are already perfectly divisible by the number 19 with no amendments required. And
Mhm.
you can see that it's got 6,327 verses in the Warsh Quran, which is a perfect multiple of 19, and not just a number of 19. What is 6,327 divided by 19? What is the result?
333.
333 are basically 33. 33.
Mhm.
Now, what is this 19 and this 33? So now the thing is, whoever designed the mathematical layout of this Warsh Quran made sure that it's mathematically coded with the number 19 and with the number 33. And we also find the 19 and the number 33 also in the Egyptian Quran. And if anybody understands the concept of squaring the circle in masonry, and what is the Kabbalah about? Yes, the Kabbalah. Then
Mhm.
the thing is, what we have is that 19, it's like the circle when you turn it into a square in masonry. So now in the circle or the flower of life, there's 19. And then when you turn it into a square in 3 dimensions, it's 33. So what you have in this Warsh Quran is more of a perfect mathematical code, which is multiples of 19 and multiples of 33. You see. So you will find this perfectly without modifying or deleting any verses in the Warsh Quran. But in the Hafs Quran in Cairo, that the one that the British organized, you have to make some changes that there's some problems with it with the 19 code, but there is a part of a 19 code. But they're two totally different 19 codes. So now if somebody compares this for example, the Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, or the French Quran, French territory Quran, with the Turkish Gold Quran. For example, yes, what you will find is that in the Turkish Gold Quran, is in the John Hopkins, is in John Hopkins in America, and it wasn't there. The thing is, what we find is that you can see here, this shows the comparison of the verse counts of the Turkish Quran with the Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia Quran, that the verse numberings they actually match more with the Morocco, the French Quran, the French Warsh Quran, and the British Hafs Quran do not match the verse numberings with the Turkish Quran or the Quran used in Turkey, which is very suspicious, wouldn't you say? Yes. And
Yes.
so the thing is, people can do the comparisons. Not only this, a lot of the spelling, yes, the spelling, magic spell, a lot of the spelling of the Quran that's in the Gold Quran actually match the Warsh Quran and not the Cairo Quran. But both of them have this 19 code. But the French Quran used in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia has the 19 and the 33rd degree code. So who designed these books? And the Gold Quran, as we pointed out, the first 18 chapters are in John Hopkins University, and after that, after the 19th chapter, is in Istanbul. Notice the 19, and nobody knows how it went missing. Nobody can explain how it went missing. That is also suspicious. It's like, for example, like the spelling. It's like when we look at the spelling of many of the words and things for the manuscripts, but the people in the Oral Quran pronounce it differently. For example, the Warsh uses alazina, whereas the Hafs uses walazina. The Gold Quran, the Turkish Gold Quran, was found to be confirming or equal to the the French Warsh Quran, which is strange.
Mhm.
Yes, and for example, where the verses stop, like people could do a comparison. I'm just giving a basic here. Many people can check this online. People have examined this. Like, for example, you could read this yourself.
Total count of verse stops in chapter 9, according to Warsh, is 130 verses, while Hafs records 129 verse stops. The Gold Quran was found to have 130 verse stops in chapter 9, thus confirming Warsh. The difference in the verse counts of chapter 9 in Hafs and Warsh occurs in 970. Warsh has a stop after the word Talmud, whereas Hafs has not stopped. Looking at the Gold Quran, we can see that this is exactly where the difference in the count can be found, making it a match with Hafs and not merely a coincidence of the count. See scan below.
Yes. So what we can see is that the Gold Quran was found to have 130 verse stops in chapter 9, for example, of the Quran, and it confirms the Warsh. So many people have confirmed these things, and they found that the Warsh Quran was more similar. You see, like for example, let's have a look at some of these differences in spelling. Of the Turkish Gold Quran and the French Quran, which is used in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, the Warsh. Like the Warsh uses Yakul in 553, whereas Hafs Egypt's British Quran uses Wayakul. The Gold Quran confirms in Turkey, confirms the Warsh Quran in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia by not having the letter Waw. You see? So the thing is, as we can see, these things are very suspicious. And the thing is, many people are saying the Cairo Quran is the main one. If it is, why does the Turkish one confirm with this Morocco, Algerian, Tunisia Quran? And it's like there's many things. But the Oral Quran is the same basically everywhere. Pronunciation differences, but the meanings are the same. It's like you could pronounce differently in America or Australia, but you know it's the same word. People are not stupid. But now the suspicious thing is, why are the French teaching people the Quran? Like, for example, now the Warsh uses yartad or yartad in 553. The Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, French Quran, while the British Egyptian Hafs Quran uses yartad. The Gold Quran, the Turkish Gold Quran, is exactly the same as the Warsh Quran. It has this extra, let's say, D or Dal. So the thing is, many people have checked these things, and you can see these things like, for example, yes, so if the Cairo Quran is the main one, why is it that's only one country, Cairo, and the British rule that? And then there's, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, were by the French and the Ottoman Turkish, they were not occupied by the British or the French. Like, for example, one of the difference in verse counts of chapter 3 in the Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Warsh, and the Egyptian Hafs occurs in 3:1. Hafs has a stop after ALM, while Warsh does not. The Gold Quran in Turkey, the Turkish Gold Quran, confirms the Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Warsh Quran in this regards by not having a stop. Therefore, they cannot confirm this Cairo Quran, which the British endorsed, and it was compiled and manufactured under the authority of His Majesty the King. They were in power. So we can see these things. There is some things, as we saw through the list, let's show it again, some things that does confirm the Quran, which is in Cairo, but the majority seems to confirm, the Istanbul Golden Quran seems to confirm the opposite. So you see, the Gold Quran does have a mixture to prove that the Hafs manuscript is okay, but it shows that the Warsh Quran is more correct in the written system. But they both have this code number 19, which many people didn't know, that there is a different code 19 in the Quran in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia. This French Quran has a different code 19. And then, as we can see, yes, the way that they've written the verbs in their tenses, whatever, like here, let me enlarge this. And what they've done is they translate some things as God to be a he or a we, compared to the Cairo Quran and the other one. So, and he or we or I, and things like this. And as you can see, if you have the Oral Quran, you don't have these problems. But in Egypt, Quran, for example, here it says he will pay, but the Algeria Tunisia says we will. So here it says, I gave you. This one says, we gave you. So the British Cairo Quran says, he will admit. In the French Warsh Quran, it says, we will admit. Yes,
Hmm.
so the thing is, and then when we go further down, you can see many people have examined that the translations of forgeries, you must go from the Oral Quran, that it has the we for a God, or he punishes, or we, or simply this is a European concept for God is a we. So it switches around from manuscript to manuscript, but simply God is not a he or a we. And then from the Oral Quran, many of the original meanings that the Jesuit Fathers or the White Fathers, many of the original meanings can be found. It's like that's why I told people to go to the mosques and talk to the people, and then you will be able to trace the Oral Quran, and people can check it themselves and not just say that David made this up himself.
Hmm.
So people can check this, and they can go there. Many people can turn around and say, oh, I remember my grandfather's father. He was being taught by one of these white fathers or Jesuit fathers in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, and they learned the Quran from them, and they learned Arabic. And even to this day, nobody speaks Arabic in the Middle East. And we find a similar thing. The British opened the Arabic schools in Egypt. They were teaching Arabic, the British, the Europeans, the French, and all these other people. So, what do you have to say about this history?
Well, I mean, it's a total fabrication as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of programming.
So, what do you think now about this oral Quran in Egypt, throughout the Middle East, and in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and these other places?
I
Did
would
they
say
get it from
is
their grandfather?
no, they got it from the Europeans, so far as I can see.
Do these local people speak Arabic?
No, they do not.
Where did they learn Arabic from?
The Jesuits, the priests and the nuns that were sent there.
The White Fathers, they're
Hmm.
similar to the Jesuits. I call
Hmm.
them Jesuit Fathers. They're just another organization that
Hmm.
was, accepted by Daddy and his friends. But it's strange. It's curious. So the thing is, why were the French teaching these people Arabic? Why were the French teaching them how to pray Islamically? Why were the French giving them clothes made in French factories? Why were they paying for all this? Why were they building mosques for people who they could have just used as slaves and peasants? They didn't need to teach them anything. They
Hmm.
didn't need to teach them the Arabic alphabet and language or French or anything. They could have just left them there as poor people and everything. Why were many of these cities empty? Why were many people leaving Europe? All of this shows that Islam and the Quran came from Europe. And this is France today we're talking about. I spoke about what happened in Egypt with the British. That's Britain and the East India Company. Yes, next time maybe I will talk about what happened in Indonesia and that region with the Dutch and the spread of Islam. But what we can see is that the Oral Quran, Europeans are spreading this. Why? And they've falsified the history. They're trying to tell us, we were teaching them the Quran and Arabic so that they can become Christians. Do you believe this history?
No, not at all.
That's what they told us. And they told us that's what they told the teachers. Maybe that's even a lie too. But what is strange is how did the Europeans already know Arabic? How did they know the Quran? Now, what does that tell you? The Quran came from China? Arabic came from China or where?
Europe, Europa.
Arabic clearly came from Europa, and the Quran came from Europa. Now, there's many aspects to this. Many aspects to this. People will have to read my books. That the evidence shows that this Prophet Muhammad actually lived in Europe, and there was an original Islam there. And Professor Anatoly Fomenko has spoken about this in his books, and in my books, I talk about them, and I show that original Islam was in Europe and that the people were destroyed. And people can read my books, Jesus Christ. That shows that there was many people who had many of the concepts that are taught in the Quran were already in Europe, and the Arabic language was there, or in the book Orphan Trains that Arabic was already in Europe in places like Russia, Germany, and other places, Poland, France, in orphan trains. And they did the same. They enslaved many people, took them to the Americas, Latin America, and they removed this original Islam. The Crusades did not happen at all in Europe. The Crusades was between Muslims and the Vatican. and the white Europeans were actually Muslims, many of them, and Prophet Muhammad came from Europe. Like we did a video on Arabia. You noticed the place was naked. Yes,
Hmm.
people didn't even know Arabic. 1950, 85% didn't even know the Quran or Arabic or anything. Do you think this Prophet Muhammad came from these people and he lived in a desert where there's nothing there and the people are running around half naked in 1950? Does this
No.
sound like real history or like a fraud?
Fraud. Definitely a fraud.
Yeah, it's a fraud. And then, in my book Skulls and Bones, I show how the Vatican invaded Western Europe and from there went towards the east. Yes, and the history of France has been totally falsified. And we've got lots of skulls and bones in France. And if people want to check, and the history of Napoleon Bonaparte and why he went to Moscow and everything, the history of Napoleon has been falsified. Something is totally wrong. And
Hmm.
then Paris got blown up in 1870. So it's like the people in power in Paris must have changed around 1870. And
Hmm.
this has got something to do with why the people in power in France have been promoting Islam, have been spreading this Arabic language, have been spreading the Quran. And the
Hmm.
thing is, more information is in my books. And then, if people want to understand some of the secrets of the Kabbalah and Masonry, this is a bit more deep and advanced. It's going deep. If anybody is really interested to see how they invented these alphabets, languages, and other things and put Masonic symbols and signs in them, it's in my book, 33 Degrees and Secrets of the Kabbalah. But that's probably it. But as you could see, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia clearly were not Muslim. Yes, before the 19th century, and the majority of the people came from outside, from India, and from the black races in Africa, and from the white races in Europe. People came and they mixed together, and this is why we have many different colors there even today. We can see this. And if people are going to ask about what about Islam in Mali, Mauritania, Chad, and Senegal, and all these other places and what's going on. Yes, we'll have to talk about Islam in West Africa next time, but that's shocking too. They've told us Islam has been there for over 1,000 years. Ancient manuscripts in Timbuktu and other places, all of that is a forgery too. And the thing is, yes, to the Muslim audience, it's like when I spoke and showed that the forgery of Christian history, yes, many evangelists could not accept it. Yes, it was difficult. I know this is going to be difficult for you, but unfortunately, this is actual history. Yes, and it's not thousands of years ago, so you can check it. And so, since the Oral Koran, the original meanings of the Oral Koran, yes, are still in the mosques. They updated and modified the dictionaries, invented the fake Arabic history of the so called Arab empires, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, and these places, many of these cities are empty. They don't even exist. There's no buildings there. They're just empty fields. And so they've invented the dictionaries, and there's many Quranists out there who are saying this is what the Quran says. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, these dictionaries are forgeries. They were only made, in the 18th and 19th centuries in Europe. The first batch of dictionaries were made by the Jesuits, and they're people with the fake classical Arabic. The second batch was made in the early 20th century and updated in the late 19th century, called Standard Arabic, which gave updated meanings to the classical Arabic, and this is what people learn with the 10% difference. Then there is another Arabic. That's another story. Usmani Arabic, which has a lot of the original meanings from Northern Europe, but they give the simple meanings of the Quran anyway, which are the oral meanings that the French gave out. And people can find this in Turkish translations of the Quran. But many Quranists don't want to do that because they want to give their meanings to what the Quran are. Yeah, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, it's a fraud. Yes, these French dictionaries, English dictionaries. Would you trust any of these people using French or English dictionaries to translate the Quran into English and French
No.
anymore,
No.
knowing
No. No. Not at all.
that they were forgery?
Yes. Forgery.
Yeah, places that were occupied, and they spread this modern Islam and these things there. Yeah, so that's that. Yes, but unfortunately, it's difficult, but that's the history. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm not here to promote or criticize anybody. If you want to believe in something, you do it. This is not me saying anything. We can clearly see there's many more photographs. Many people were naked, and you can check some of the records of the French bringing slaves. They called them forced labor, bringing them from Egypt, and many of those people were brought by the East India Company from India and other Indian colonies throughout the Indian Ocean that the East India Company had, and there was the French sector in the East India Company, the Dutch sector, the British sector, the Spanish sector, the Portuguese sector. They brought them to Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and there were people who were running away to preserve original Islam. And the Oral Koran from Spain and from France and from Italy. That's a totally different story. Now, that story is totally different, but what we are looking at here about the French involvement and the French Quran, which they call the Warsh, and the British Quran, which they call the Hafs, because these Qurans were compiled, authorized, and published with French machines and printed with French machines or British machines under British authority, which is a fact. And many people are now saying, yeah, this is what God's saying. It seems like many evangelists, no matter what, are going to say the Bible is the word of God, but the manuscripts came from the Vatican. So now many people are going to be saying this Egyptian Quran is the word of God, the British Hafs Koran or this Warsh Koran from Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia is the word of God. But you can see many people are saying the Oral Koran that we read in Algeria itself, it's not the same. Many of the words are different. And people in Egypt are saying the Oral Quran in the Egyptian mosques are actually different. I've given examples of this in my book, 33 Degrees. I actually show where actually in the Egyptian Quran, the words are actually different compared to the Oral Quran. But it's suspicious now. Yes, the Oral Quran, many people are asking about the meanings. They were just simple. When these white fathers, I call them Jesuit fathers, and these other people in European colonial teachers are teaching them Arabic and the Quran. Of course, they've given the history that they were controlled by the Vatican, but I couldn't find this control. Now, the question is, who were these people? Who was the French Empire really? Who destroyed Paris in 1870? First, the French invaded Moscow in 1812. Now, when we look at Paris, 1870, and many French cities, we can clearly see that somebody blew France up. They blew Paris up. That somebody else has taken control of it. And then mysteriously after this, mysteriously after 1870, the French are teaching the Quran. The French are teaching Arabic. Don't you
Mm.
find this really suspicious?
Very
The siege of
suspicious.
Paris. Some like when we see it, we these weapons that they had in 1870. Look at the destruction here. It's
Hmm.
like somebody's blown, totally destroyed this country. Something is wrong. And the thing is, the sky has been modified in many of these pictures. They've done put out parts and hid things, but you can totally see that France is a total disaster. There
Mm.
is something wrong that we can't make sense of this history. The thing is, and then mysteriously after this time, it was German principalities. The Ottoman German were allies, and after the fall of Moscow, after the French invaded Eastern Europe and Moscow, and it's so suspicious that Paris got blown up just afterwards. Like 50, 60 years later. That the amount of destruction is just a joke. I don't know how to show it. Let me find. There's a picture of an aerial view, but I'm not managing. People will have to find this themselves online because I'm just doing a quick search in Wikipedia. But Paris totally destroyed. I don't know how to describe it. There's so many pictures that people are going to find. They call it the Franco-Prussian War, by the way, or the German principalities. They came, and the history of that sounds like a joke. Also, I don't know what to say. If anybody wants to understand a bit more of the forgery, and there is something going on, in all these religions and everything, if they read these two books. I've made the Kabbalah and the 33rd degree very simple in these two books. Yeah, you could read hundreds of books and maybe you won't figure it out. I've put it in as clear as I can. from there if anybody reads them. And by the way, my videos are about my books. So if somebody says David said this and David said that, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, read all my books. Yes, and if there is other things that they've not understood, I'm still writing more of the books because I haven't finished all the books. Yes, but if you haven't read these books and you're saying, "Hey, you said this and now you're saying this," it doesn't make sense. It's because, there's more information to come. It's like before you watched this video, you didn't even know that the French opened the mosques. The French were teaching them Arabic, and the people didn't even know this. And you do. It's like I've not even shown the proof yet, but I will do later. That they brought Indians to Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, and they interbred Indians. Can you imagine this? It seemed like it's difficult to believe, but it seemed like they brought English people to Australia. They brought Germans to Australia, Russians to Australia. Many of them were orphans, and many of the people they say convicts. We don't. It doesn't make sense. They brought them, and it's so far away. It's hard to believe, but in reality, it's true.
Mhm.
Let's leave it at that. Or is there any more questions?
Nope. I'm good for now. Thank you very much again for this conversation. And I'm always learning from your presentations, David. Thank you again.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I wish you have a very great day ahead of you. Thank you very much.